Okay, so power steering pump how-to on the Genesis Coupes bk1 and bk2, I believe. This is a 3.8 V6. Tools you're going to need is a couple of ratchets, a 14 and a 10 millimeter socket, some needle nose pliers, a Phillips screwdriver, a tiny flathead as a pry bar, 14 millimeter wrench, ratcheting preferably. You're going to need, here's the 10 and a 19 for the tensioner bolt, and various assorted extensions. So first step is to take your intake velocity stack thing there. It's got 4 little plastic screws. They don't really unscrew. You can kind of just pop them up with a little screwdriver and then kind of start to unscrew them with the Phillips, and you pull them all out. And they're these guys here, so they're spread clips. Like when the screw goes in, it spreads this plastic out to hold it in place. I broke one, no big deal. So after you remove those 4, you can just pull it off. It just comes right off from the airbox here. Then it's a good idea to get the airbox out of the way. It's just these 2 big bolts that are 10s that are here and here. And then once you've got those undone, I loosened this clamp on this hose to separate the box. And I also undid these 10 millimeter bolts that hold that on so that it can come up a little bit. I'm not going to move the airbox all the way. Oh yeah, and I loosened the throttle body connection so you can pull it off of the throttle body. That's just a Phillips head. And then I undid this connector on the side of the airbox. I probably didn't need to do that. And then you can just kind of mess with the box and pull it up, out, and it will rest here. Oh, and lastly, you also need to disconnect this. I think it's a breather line, it's a valve cover breather line, so just with needle nose pliers, pull the clamp off and pull the hose off. You can just, the hose can just, like, dangle. But then that way you can move the box up and out and it can just chill here. The only thing it's connected by is this wire for the for this connector, so be careful not to rip it, so it can just chill right here. That way you have access to the 14 millimeter bolt on the front of the power steering pump, which is right above the belt, right above the bottom of the belt, right there where my wrench is covering. That is the bolt hole. So I took the 14 millimeter bolt out right there. You can tell that it's the one because it has like a metal arm that has lines in it going to it, which can be seen here on the new pump. So see these metal grooves, and then there's the bolt hole. You'll see those metal grooves and then the bolt hole right next to it, right down there. I did a combination of a 14 millimeter with an extension for a little bit to get it loose, and then after I got it out a little bit, I was able to, this was too long and my other extension was too short, so I got the 14 millimeter wrench on it and got it out the rest of the way. So there's that one. Then the only other one, that's that one. The other one holding it on is on top of it, so it's got 2 bolts. This is the new pump. 2 bolts. That bolt is right down here on the side. You can see it right there, right where my finger is covering. That's it right there by the sticker. It's a 14 millimeter. Also, I got my 14 millimeter ratcheting wrench on, and I was able to bust it loose. I didn't pull it all the way because I still want it to be held in place because you got to drain the fluid before you pull the pump. So the other thing is there's a connector on the pump right here, and that goes right there. It's just you just push the little tab and it slides out. It's this, you can see it here. So just to have reference, our pump has 2 14 millimeter bolts. You get this one from the front, you get this one from the side, That's the connector I just talked about, and then here is the actual fluid line, and here is the other fluid line. So you have the inlet and the outlet, which is here, this huge banjo bolt, which I forgot to mention you'll need a big socket for that. I forgot the size. And then the other connection down there, needle nose pliers on that, pull that clamp off, and then slide that hose off. But before you do that, like I said, you got to drain the system. My preferred method of draining, I see a lot of people go under the bumper and do that. I don't like that. That seems like too much work. I just go right here where the power steering pump is. Your top hose, I've got a nipple cover on it. Top hose is the return, so you're going to undo with needle nose pliers the clamp, pull the hose off really quickly and put it in a bottle, and then at the same time put a like a rubber nipple cover on this. If you don't, you can just, you know, like put your finger or something like that, but you kind of need 2 people for the job if you don't have the nipple cover. So I was able to cover that for now, and then I've got the hose in the bottle. And what you're going to do is with the ignition on, so I believe 2 clicks, but don't start the engine, and then you can just turn the steering wheel back all the way to the left and all the way to the right, and don't stop. Go lock to lock, don't stop in the middle. So all the way to the left, all the way to the right, all the way to the left, all the way to the right. I think it took me 6 times total, so left, right, left, right, left, right, about 6 times, 7 times, and I wasn't getting any more fluid out. So, and it all is in this bottle, because I'm trying to save it, because I recently flushed the system in hopes that that would fix it. So this fluid is still very nice and new, and Pentacin CHF 202 is very expensive, so that's why I'm trying to reuse this fluid, because this fluid is very new. If your fluid is really old, I would recommend putting new fluid. You're still gonna have to capture it in a bottle or something like that, but then you can just dump it in your like a drain pan and take it to the auto parts store and dispose of it properly. Don't just dump it. So yeah, so then once you got all the fluid out, then you can proceed with fully removing the 2 14-mealer bolts, one on the side here, and then remember the one on the front. And then the only other thing that will be holding the pump in place, actually you should leave that bolt in place. Leave at least 1 bolt in place. We got to get the belt off, so you're going to get your 19 with a long ratchet or a breaker bar, and this pulley here, it's under this, but it's not. There's 2 bolts there. One is an 18. It's not that one that you can kind of see peeking out right there. It's not that. Over here to the right and more under is the hidden 19, and that's your tensioner bolt. So it's right there. It's the hidden 19 more to the right, and then once you're on there, you're gonna go that way. You're gonna go counterclockwise to release the tension, and you'll be able to get the belt off of the power steering pulley. And remember how the belt goes. You might want to take a picture or draw an image or look up an image online, just in case the belt fully falls off or something, so you know how to put it back on. And then remove that final bolt, and you'll be able to get the power steering pump off. That's it. Then get the new one on. You know, put your connections on. So you're going to do this connection here. This is just a plastic cover. You're going to put that huge banjo bolt. You're going to put that connection on. You're going to put the rubber hose with the clamp on the back one. You're going to do your electric connector connection. You're going to do your 2 bolts. This one that we access from the side, and this one that we access from the front. And then once you've got your pump in and all your connections and lines secure, then you can put the belt back on. So you're going to need to hold the tension off, and while you're holding tension off, slip the belt on. And then you'll be able to fill it, so then you can put your new fluid back in. So I would just go right here. I would just put the fluid in the reservoir, and of course you're going to want to put this line back on, and then put the new fluid. Leave the cap off, and then you're going to go same thing. You're going to go lock to lock on the steering wheel to get all the air bubbles out that were introduced into the system, and there will be a ton of air bubbles. I've heard that you have to do the lock-to-lock turns for up to 15-20 minutes, many times, to get all the air bubbles out so that it's a fully bled system. Once it's not groaning or making weird noises and you think it's smooth and you got all the air bubbles out, you can finish buttoning up everything. So situate your air box back down in there with the 2 bolts that hold it in. They're 10 mils. Reconnect this part of the airbox to this. Reconnect your 10 millimeters over here that hold this guy on. Reconnect the valve cover breather, or the intake breather line there with the clamp. Your sensor. Got the box down in place. Then once you got the box down in place, you're going to put your funnel, your velocity funnel, 4 bolts here, and this part of it connects to here, remember. And I think that's it. And then you just saved your, oh yeah, and then of course connect the airbox to the throttle body, and make sure that this rubber tooth is in between these 2 metal tabs. And you know, just take your time, make sure you're putting it all back together right, and you will have saved yourself a ton of money. Good luck. So for that big ass banjo fitting, sort of banjo bolt looking thing that is the side of your pump, goes there, that oil or that steering fluid line, on my my metric set, even 22 was too small, so I went over to my standard, and 5/16 fits, and it's a big boy. But yeah, the 5/16 fits, so that's how I'm gonna bust it off. And like and subscribe, please. So for that big ass, what did I say it was, 15/16 bolt, this fluid connection, I ended up getting the socket on it with an extension and a ratchet, and it was so tight I ended up having to use a cheater bar. I just got the handle from my jack, put that on the top of my ratchet, and I was able to get enough leverage. But make sure that you're holding it straight with one hand, so that it doesn't slip off, and then with the other hand push down on the bar, and you can break that bitch loose. Okay, so I got the big ass bolt off, and it is a banjo bolt that also lets fluid through, and it's got that copper washer on it. And on the other side, here's that fitting, and it's got that tooth to orient it in the slot on the bottom. And on the other side is another copper washer. Don't lose that. My pump did not come with a new one, so I'm going to try and get away with reusing both of these. We'll see how that goes. And remember, you still have to get that other fluid line down there that's got the hose clamp on it, which is this guy. Follow this bottom line. It's that one. Gotta remove it. Here's another thought. Some really long needle nose pliers are very nice to get that bottom clamp down there. This guy for the power steering, what would it be? The in? Yeah, I think that's the power steering inlet. The outlet is the big banjo bolt. Right there. So yeah, get yourself a pair of these guys. The curved ones are also really nice. I got them in a set. When you have disconnected both fluid lines and the electrical connector, and you only have one bolt on the pump left, whether it be this front one or the side one, and you're finally ready to take the belt off, or maybe you did the belt first, I don't know. It's the 19. It's under there. Not the 18, the 19. And it's easy to put a breaker bar, like from your jack or something, on your ratchet, and you're going to go that way towards the passenger side. And you can slip the belt off of the pump. Okay, so once you got the pump fully disconnected from from the two fluid lines and the electrical connector and the two bolts, by the way, the 14mm bolt from here is a huge bitch, and I just had to go really slow with a 14mm ratcheting wrench and just go tiny little bits at a time until I could finally kind of get both hands on there and hold it, and with one hand, and with the other hand loosen the bolt the rest of the way and lift up the airbox kind of on top of the engine. Just be careful with the connector, and you're kind of gonna fish it out between this huge long metal pipe that goes to a rubber pipe, I think it's a coolant line, and this big harness clip here. I tried to get this harness clip undone, but I couldn't. If you can probably have an easier time, but sort of kind of squeeze it through like this, body side first and pulley last, and it will drip a little bit. I put a rag down there because the metal line is dripping this one. But if you fight with it enough, you can get it out. So here's just another quick video showing the old pump. The part number is 57100 2M400. Here's the new one, 57100 2M100. So 2M100, 2M400 on the old one. 3. Yeah, so this is OEM pump on my car, and I killed it by doing donuts. I'm at 70,000 miles, but it would have probably lasted longer, but I do donuts every now and then and have some fun. So one night I was doing donuts parking lot, and it blew the power steering pump, and that was that. And I noticed that the OEM units were like $550, $600 through the Hyundai websites, even like discount Hyundai websites, whatever. I checked Rock Auto. They didn't, I don't think they had any at the time. Usually they do, but they didn't. But I was able to go on eBay and find this pump that says it's also an OEM Hyundai pump, but it's the Korean version. So it actually came from Korea, and it was only $150 compared to the $550 US version. And I think that they're identical, honestly. I can't tell, I mean, a difference other than they slap BK US sticker on there, and then the Korean one is just BK. Save tons and tons of money. $500 to $600, $150 Korean version. Got it on eBay. Once you've fished your new pump in through here, get your bolts started hand tight. And that guy right there. Get them started hand tight and start situating it in there. Okay, new pump is in. Next thing you want to do is get the belt back on. So 19 with the breaker bar. I'm gonna go that way. Make sure it's sitting in the grooves, top and bottom. See how it's coming off the top pulley there? So we're gonna push that back on. Now it's sitting right. We're gonna check how the belt is sitting down there. I think it's wanting to pop off a little bit on that. Yep, it had popped off a little bit. of the, looks like the crank pulley, yeah. So it wasn't fully situated. So while you're holding tension, you're gonna have to feel that the belt is on all the pulleys correctly. So my bottom one with the holes in it, it's an upgraded pulley, but yeah, the belt wasn't all the way wrapped around, so make sure that your belt is sitting right, and then you can release the tension. Here's another good tip. I was struggling to get the bottom hose back on. I mean, I could get it on. It's this one that goes from the bottom of the reservoir. But getting the clamp exactly back the way it was tough to get the clamp to the side. So I had to twist the hose up and then find where the indentation in the rubber had been for where the clamp had been before. Put the clamp exactly back in that same spot, in that same indentation, and then let the hose go, and the hose went to the side instead of up. And the reason for that is because if you don't put the clamp exactly where it was before on that rubber impression, on that rubber indentation, it's probably going to leak. So make sure you put the clamp exactly back on the bottom. And on this one too, for example, you'll see when you remove the clamp, there'll be a rubber footprint where the clamp was. You want to make sure that it is exactly in that same rubber footprint again, or it's going to leak. Okay, I've got everything buttoned up. All the hose connections on the pump itself, all our airbox stuff. Made sure the belt was okay. All this stuff back here, the valve cover breather, or I mean the PCV breather, all that. Got the engine running. I just put in our fluid. We are ever so slightly low, but it's not a big deal. Checking for leaks. Looking at that banjo fitting down there. Everything looks pretty good. This is the sucky part. You're going to have to go over, and if you don't have someone to help, turn the steering wheel lock to lock a few times. This cap off to get all the air bubbles out.